As an incident becomes more complex, a multi-agency coordination, or MAC system, is used to coordinate and support the response efforts. A MAC system is a combination of integrated facilities, equipment, personnel, procedures, and communications with responsibility for coordinating and supporting incident management activities. A MAC system is much larger than a single facility and includes a network of elements all designed to support the incident command.
Well, the overall purpose of the MAC system is good situational awareness, of having the coordination system and the command and control systems in place to have good situational awareness of what the effects that disaster has had on our community.
A MAC system includes both command and coordination components. In a MAC system, direct tactical and operational responsibility for conducting incident management activities rests with the incident command or area command. The coordination components of the MAC system support the on-scene commanders by establishing incident management policies and priorities, facilitating logistical support and resource tracking, making informed resource allocation decisions, maintaining a common operating picture by coordinating incident-related information, and coordinating interagency and intergovernmental issues regarding policies, priorities, and strategies.
The difference between the incident manager in the EOC and the incident commander in the field can be summed up with the terms of the incident commander is engaged in command and control of that specific incident scene, and the incident manager in the EOC is engaged in coordination of that whole multi-agency coordination system. The incident commander has certain statutory duties or authorities to be able to protect public safety, to carry out particular actions. The incident manager in the Emergency Operations Center is discharging the duties of the chief executive of that jurisdiction to coordinate and make the entire community move towards effective response and recover in supporting those incident commanders.
We start merging our operations very quickly and work to support local governments and any type of disaster, but particularly those we know are coming. We'll actually assign staff into those impacted or potentially impacted county emergency operations centers before the storm ever makes landfall.
A MAC system may include a coordination entity with agency policy representatives who have decision-making authority. Common examples of these groups include policy committees, MAC groups, joint field office coordination groups, and executive groups. Although these groups have differing titles, their purpose is to provide strategic policy direction for the incident.
On disaster day, in the Emergency Operations Center, they're involved in strategy and policy as well, and our system must account for that and have them involved because there's numerous policy level decisions that need to be made during disaster.
We are a representative form of government. Our elected leaders are who the public expects to be providing that policy direction.
It goes all the way back, being grounded in our local ordinance and city ordinance and describing who's in charge, who has the authority to declare local states of emergency and what that means and what it establishes this executive group for the purposes of strategy and policy making. An example of policy is hurricane evacuation. That's a policy decision. The establishment of curfews or exclusion zones or restricting the sale of gasoline or firearms, all those are policy issues that the executive group gets involved in and makes the decisions about those.
Effective resource management is a key function of those making policy decisions within the MAC system.
One of the very important tools in the toolbox for resource management is the use of mutual aid agreements. Really what are contracts, in essence, that describe the financial relationships, the legal relationships, and some of the operational relationships for a disaster environment. That statewide mutual aid agreement is an important part of our disaster service delivery.
The executive or policy group is supported by operational personnel. These staff members may work in the emergency operations centers, joint operations centers, joint field offices, or regional response coordination centers. Although the names of facilities may differ, operational support staff facilitates logistics support and resource tracking, gathers and provides information, and implements multi-agency coordination entity decisions. There are many different ways to organize operational support staff. Often, operational support personnel are organized using Incident Command System, or ICS, principles. Although ICS principles may be used, these staff are in a support role, not a command role.
We further organize the operations group using the Incident Command System. And we have essentially what we call an incident manager within the EOC who has a leadership role similar to what in the field would be called an incident commander, but an incident manager within the EOC, and then the common staff positions and general positions for within the Incident Command System, an information officer, liaisons, safety officer, and then section chiefs of an operations section chief, plan section chief, logistics section chief, and then finance section chief. That organizational structure is really dealing with, to a certain extent, command and control, but primarily coordination issues to support incident commanders out across that devastated area or that disaster area.
One critical function of a multi-agency coordination system is to develop a common operating picture accessible across jurisdictions and functional agencies. A common operating picture allows incident managers at all levels to make effective, consistent decisions in a timely manner. And it helps ensure consistency at all levels of incident management across jurisdictions, as well as between various engaged governmental jurisdictions and private sector and non-governmental entities.
We were talking about organizational discipline, and it goes back to the objectives. And what are the objectives that we need to meet in this period of time, as well as in the overall picture of the incident, and making sure that everybody that's as part of the organization is moving in the same direction, that people are not off on their own, doing their own thing, that we're all coming together to meet those needs as well as meet those objectives. So it's tying the big picture together. You know, sometimes operations is so busy out in the field doing what they need to do, but it's essential that we get all the information that what they need, what they're doing, back up so that the rest of the organization is familiar with what they're doing, and that bigger decisions can be made by the executive group and the mayor for going forward. Another part of our MAC system is a very important part is the financial control system. I think in the past that's been an afterthought, and we realized that the finance section is very huge in being able to account for time, account for all the resources, payment, budgeting, everything has to be tracked through finance, and we want to get them involved at the beginning and not at the end, whereas we need to make sure that everything's documented correctly, that we're gathering the information that they need.
Communications within a MAC system must be reliable. Systems and protocols must be in place to support integrated systems for communication, information management, and intelligence and information sharing to continuously update data during an incident.
One of the things about NIMS is, irregardless of the technology challenges, it provides a method of ensuring you have interoperability communications because you define who needs to talk to who, when, and what they need to say. And from there you take your systems and you build it to support the mission, the goals, and the objectives. And NIMS provides the framework that identifies not only who needs to talk to who, but what information must be passed between the different levels, both vertically and horizontally, to make sure we're all working towards the same mission, goals, and objectives, even though we may have different pieces of that, come from different disciplines, and on a daily basis, we don't share common communications.
One other component to that, on somewhat more on the mission side of it, is the whole mechanism to communicate external to the public, to get out public information, and the need that we have in command centers to be able to partner with media, with television and radio and print media, to get that message out, to get protective action measures out, to get public safety messages and other information about that disaster, it's very important to have that in close proximity to the overall Emergency Operations Center or command structure. But moreover, it's not the mission of getting that message out can impede the command and control and coordination, getting that whole piece of it done as well. And so it's important to think of having the Public Information Joint Information Center close and co-located, but not necessarily in the middle of the Emergency Operations Center. In the facility that we're in now, the Joint Information Center is within this facility, but is separated by a couple of several floors from the operational area of the EOC, so that's in close proximity, but not in the midst of the operations.
Throughout this course, you'll learn that effective multi-agency coordination systems incorporate all phases of emergency management prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation.
What makes an effective multi-agency coordinating system is the communication. And I think it's not just the communication when an incident happens, but that we've had that communication all along, and that in plans and writing plans, in exercises, in activations, that have always been a part of the same team.
I think it helps coordinate whatever the incident is by having all the key players there that can make the decisions, that can communicate their concerns. It certainly establishes a much more coordinated effort. It reinforces the command structure, and I think it supports the entire effort much more than agencies being out on their own or being even in another location.
The key to an effective multi-agency coordination system is coming all the way back, is being disaster victim focused and having a well thought out command and control, communication and coordination system to be able to meet the extraordinary resource management issues and requirements, as well as the situational awareness and coordination requirements that disaster brings. And so that means addressing it from a management and organizational structure basis, from a facility basis, from a plans and procedure and training basis.